Super Rugby Power Rankings, folks, for round number 11. If memory serves, we've only done one Power Rankings this entire season. I didn't do them at the start of the season for Super Rugby because I figured Super Rugby is really predictable. There's not really that much point in Power Rankings. Well, this season has certainly defied that logic. And then in April, I buggered off for a month on holiday. So I'm back, and the Power Rankings are back. I've been keeping up with the old calculations while I've been gone. So here are the Power Rankings. If you're not familiar with how we do the Power Rankings, we're basically looking at recent form, home and away. Kind of, are you winning away more than home, or are you winning by big margins? You're beating strong teams, weak teams, more than just the straight log, which gives, kind of 4 points for a win and bonus points and whatnot. So it's going to be a little bit different from the table. The Waratahs come out in 12th in the Power Rankings, which is not far from where they are on the actual table, which is 11th. They've won one game of their last 8, and the only team they've managed to beat is the Crusaders, who this season are kind of a lowly team. So a little bit less kind of credit for them for that. It's not been going that flash for the Waratahs. They got hammered last week, and they got the Brumbies coming up. So not getting any easier for the boys from New South Wales. Moana Pacifica are here in 11th, which is again slightly lower than the actual table, which has got them in 9th. They've won one of their last 6. Their early season form was trending a little bit better, but in recent weeks it's not gone all that well. They've lost to the Highlanders, they've lost to the Drua in their last 2, which again aren't really kind of highly ranked teams. Kind of both games that were winnable, especially that game against the Highlanders that was in Tonga. Maybe if the conditions were a bit better, who knows? But yeah, one from their last 6 is not a great record. Then there's the Force, who are the bottom side on the actual table. I've got them in 10th, which is still not that flash. They're still out the playoffs. They had a narrow loss to the Highlanders, just by 1 point away, and then they got bloody hammered by the Chiefs in the most recent round, which was probably like the worst of the results, even though like the Rebels and the Waratahs also got hammered. But yeah, that Force result just felt pretty bad. They did have a relatively recent win, though, which is maybe what's got them above these jokers, is the fact they beat the Crusaders like 3 rounds ago or something like that. So relatively recent, but still not that flash, as I said. Speaking of the Crusaders, they are here in 9th. Their record is not particularly good either. 10th on the actual table. 9th on the Power Rankings. They lost their most recent game to the Reds at home. First loss to the Reds at home since 1999. Breaking all kinds of unwanted records are the Crusaders at the moment. They still can't seem to find form. They've had the return of a few guys from injury. Ethan Blackadder came back for a couple of rounds. Now he's back out. They got Harvey back playing. He was playing at 10. They got Half Penny. He got his first game for the Crusaders. So yeah, they're still not missing. Well, they're not missing as many guys. They are still missing some. But yeah, we will see how they go against the Highlanders in their next match, which, given the positions on the table, both teams are still alive for the playoffs. Could be an interesting one. The Drua I've got here at 8th, which is the same as what they are on the table. So maybe a pretty fair reflection of where the Drua are at. They've only won one of their last 4, which is not great. They can't win away, which is pretty bad, especially if you're going to finish 8th. Or 7th, or 6th, or 5th, because you're going to be going away for a knockout match. And if you can't win away, you're just delaying your exit of the competition by 1 week. And then the kind of home fortress thing, the Hurricanes changed like 10 players and still managed to beat them at home relatively easily. So yeah, it's middling for the Drua. But as I said, they are still in the playoffs. And they were solid against the Brumbies. So yeah, we'll kind of have to see. The Rebels are a team which can do well and can also get hammered from week to week. They're a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde side. They got them in 7th. They are 6th on the actual table, mainly because their more recent form has kind of suffered a little bit. They've lost their last 2 by a fair bit of a drop in form, like that big loss to the Blues. Certainly didn't do them any favours when they were at home. But they still should make the playoffs. I haven't done the maths on whether they will. Remember, they've never made the playoffs. So it'd be good for them to have that kind of first. The Highlanders are here 1 spot above the Rebels on the Power Rankings. The Rebels are slightly higher than the Highlanders on the actual table. They kind of swap positions for this one. Basically, because the Highlanders, from a power rankings, have got a little bit more recent form than the Rebels. They've got 2 wins in a row. They beat the Force and they beat Moana Pacifica, which admittedly are 2 sides down here in the bottom of the table, but I don't know. It's a bit of form, which is more than you can say for some of the teams around them. And as I mentioned, their upcoming game in Dunedin against the Crusaders is going to be massive. And then the Reds. The Reds have also got a game up against the Rebels coming up, which will be a really interesting one because those guys are right next to each other on the table, like 5th and 6th. Rebels are 6th, Reds are 5th on the table. So that should be a kind of fascinating one in itself. 2 teams with equal records in the 5 wins, 5 losses category. Reds are up and down as well, kind of like the Rebels, but I feel like their recent form is a bit better. As I mentioned, they've won 2 of their last 4, which kind of speaks to up and down, but a good win away in Christchurch is not doing too bad for them. Chiefs comfortably in 4th, which is also where they sit on the actual table. The Chiefs are like going good. Yeah, but they're not quite going as good as the Hurricanes or the Blues in terms of the New Zealand teams. But they're going pretty good. You feel like the Chiefs are going to be a contender. No one's going to want to play the Chiefs, basically, when it comes to knockout time, whether it's home or away, because the Chiefs can certainly beat anybody. The Brumbies are the top ranked of the Aussie teams on both the table and my power rankings, coming in 3rd. As I said, that's the same spot they've got. They're pretty consistent. They had that disappointing loss to the Blues away, which kind of made them look like pretenders. And then the next week they go back home and are the first side to beat the Hurricanes, which makes them once again look like contenders. So, yeah, they beat the Drew at home. They've lost to the Blues, who are above them, and they've beaten the Hurricanes, who are above them. So, yeah, you still feel like the Brumbies are going to be there or thereabouts. Home advantage is certainly going to be key. Top spot doesn't go to the Hurricanes. I've got them in 2nd. Not because I'm a Blues fan, I promise. This is a maths thing, which has spat them out in 2nd rather than me. I think basically, because the way I do it puts more weighting on recent results. The Blues' 1 loss, which was to the Hurricanes, it was away, and it was quite a while ago compared to the Hurricanes' more recent loss to the Brumbies. I think that's the only reason. But even though I've got the Blues in 1st, these guys are playing each other this weekend at Eden Park. So there's a chance for the Hurricanes to shove that number 2 spot in my face and retake number 1. Having had a look at the power rankings, ever since the Hurricanes lost to the Brumbies, the Blues have been number 1 in the power rankings. So that's the way the kind of maths has been spitting it out since then. So, I mean, they've got the same records. The Hurricanes are above them in the table, the Blues that is, because they've got 1 more point on the actual log, but their win-loss records are the same. So there's very little in them. I mean, they beat the Rebels and the Waratahs respectively this week just gone. The scorelines were pretty much the same. You could argue the Blues one's worth a little bit more because it was away, but the Hurricanes won, I think, by a bit more. They certainly scored a few more points. So, yeah, the Blues, the Hurricanes, the Chiefs from New Zealand, I feel like looked like the 3 best teams, and the Brumbies certainly look like the best Aussie team. So those 4... You feel like, if you're going into the quarterfinals, you feel like those are the 4 teams that should be winning it. Like they feel like they're a cut above the teams in the next row. But this season has been all over the shop. So would it surprise me to see an upset win in the first round of the knockouts? It would surprise me, but it wouldn't be like earth-shattering surprising. But yeah, we'll kind of have to wait and see. Playoff spots still yet to be decided. There are definitely going to be teams with pretty poor records heading into the playoffs because the Crusaders could still make it. They've only won 2 games out of 10, but the maths is not that far away from them if they can get a few more points between here and the last round. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. How would you rank the teams? Would you have the Canes number 1? Would you have the Chiefs a wee bit higher? Would you potentially have the Brumbies higher? Or are the Crusaders? That's a force of habit. Are the Hurricanes and Blues pretty clear 1 and 2? Whichever order you got them in. You guys let us know your thoughts. I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.